Okay, first, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today, and especially Luke and Kate for this amazing Austin for America. I think as our industry becomes more relevant and timely, it's important that we have an opportunity to get together with the dynamic community that of people who are actually in the arena doing things. So we need more of these convening events. Today, I had the honor of having a fireside chat interviewing Steve Bowsher, the CEO of In-Q-Tel. And while this is Austin for America's first year, I always like to think defense tech has really been around for 5 years. And each year we gain momentum in terms of mainstreaming, people coming in wanting to be involved in this community. But Steve and In-Q-Tel really were the founders. In-Q-Tel just celebrated its 25th anniversary. You've been there since 2006. They were there before defense tech or national security investing was cool. And I'd like to spend a little time today kind of talking with Steve about the history, where they came along, and where you see things going today.
Great.
So, all right.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's great to see everybody out here, and I'm excited to have the conversation today.
Good. Why don't we jump in? Because the concept of the intelligence community having an equity investing platform is a little heretical. And it certainly was not thought of 25 years ago when you guys were founded. How did In-Q-Tel come about? Who were the brainchild?
So several people have claimed credit for founding In-Q-Tel, which I think means we've done something well, right? If everybody wants to be part of the founding team. But I really give credit to three folks within the Science and Technology Directorate at the time, Sue Gordon, Ruth Ann David, and Joanne Isham. And the fundamental premise that they had, which is readily accepted today, but much more controversial back in 1999, was that innovation had shifted in the United States from large corporate R&D labs like Xerox PARC and Bell Labs to the 10,000 plus venture-backed startup companies at the time. And they realized they didn't have the ability to access the innovation that was occurring in these startup companies, influence product direction, and ultimately ingest and deploy that technology in mission and operational environments. And they decided they needed to create something to do it. The other people I would give credit to are George Tenet and Buzzy Krongard, who were running CIA at the time. George was the director, and Buzzy was what's called the COO, the COO. They're the ones that took the idea from Sue, Joanne, and Ruth, and turned it into something that was real. So they created In-Q-Tel and gave us the charter of figure out how to let us access it, innovation, influence it, and ultimately deploy it. And that's what we've done for 25 years. I like to say, this space, which is hot today, to your point, is a 20-year overnight success story because we were working on it for a long time before it became sort of popular. But, if you think about it, the best technologies in this country are being built by these startup companies. And it was a shame that neither CIA nor DOD was able to have access to it. Is that better? Great. Sorry about that.
Steve, with that, we all know venture funds take time to mature. They take time to. When did the table turns and the tide turn internally where people are like, wow, these guys are doing a good thing? We talk about Palantir, you had a lot of successes. When was it a real recognition, these guys are onto something and, we need more of them?
I think it goes back to one of our earliest investments was in a company that was developing a browser-based interface for looking at satellite imagery. Back then, the state of the art for agencies like NGA and NRO were to use this really clunky old client-server technology to access imagery. And we found this company that was building a browser-based interface to do satellite imagery for the commercial and residential real estate markets. We invested in that company. Google bought it and became Google Earth, this product that was distributed widely. And that was, I think, the first time that the light really clicked on for some of the agencies we were working with of like, oh, this is what In-Q-Tel can do. It can take this technology being developed for the commercial market that has nothing to do with us, turn it into something that we can leverage and use, and then we can also see it become a huge commercial success as well. So that was really, I think the one that caught everyone's attention and made them realize, this model is something to offer us.
I think that was super helpful. There's a little part of me who wondered, I helped stand up OSC,
Right.
was in there and we kept saying, why can't we do equity? Why can't we do more? You're not part of the DoD. Over the years, you have had more and more organizations throughout the government sign up and be your partner. Why isn't it across the government? And why are people so resistant to this equity concept?
Yeah, I think there's a number of lawyers in the government that have concerns about government purchasing equity. There's also concerns going back to the loan program that DOE had, that Slendro is part of. We invest in speculative early stage companies, and anybody that is familiar with this business, and I think most of you probably are, know that in that stage of investing, 50% of your companies go to zero, right? And the government isn't really a business model that's used to seeing investments go to zero. And so there's discomfort with that as well. Finally, and it's a little bit unfortunate, there's always a little bit of resistance, I think, about the fact that we were started by CIA and we're perceived to be this sort of toy, if you will, of the intelligence community, right? And DoD doesn't want to take second position to anybody. Right, so I think they thought at times about doing their own thing as
I've
opposed
seen
to
that as well.
working with us. But we do work with several different pockets of DoD, and we feel like we deliver a lot of value to them, and we're excited to continue to do that.
Okay, I'm going to double click on a comment you made because I agree with it. But I'm always the person who thinks if there's people are rational. You've been incredibly successful bringing new technologies into the government. You've made the government a ton of money. And yes, venture is risky, but that's a pretty rational thought process to say we should be doing more of this, especially since we're in the worst defensive, posture we've been in decades.
Yeah, and to be fair, we are growing, right? So if we started out working just with CIA, today we're working with CIA, NSA, FBI, pockets of DoD, like I said, NGA, NRO, DIA. Parts of Homeland Security, so TSA and CBP and DHS, S&T. So we work with a number of agencies. We work with Space Force. We work with Navy. We work with other pockets of DoD that we haven't announced yet. So we are growing, but there is always a resistance. There's always a sense of, most of these government leaders they're coming for 2 or 4 years in their jobs, and they want to do something new. They want to put their name attached to some sort of new initiative that they can point to and say, hey, I was responsible for doing that. And working with a 25-year-old organization doesn't always, catch their attention in that same way. But we've always believed that if we just put our heads down, do good work, deliver value to our customers, good things will happen to us, and that's our attitude.
And you've done that, clearly.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of founders here, a lot of startups. Can you talk to them how your structure and setup is different? In-Q-Tel is not the 7-person partner firm. It is a pretty large organization.
Yeah. So remember, it comes back to what is our mission, right? Our mission is to ultimately see great innovative technology built by folks like you, deployed in mission operational environments. So when we make an investment, the investment is actually a very tiny part of what we do. The heart of what we do is a contract in which we, provide NRE dollars, non-recurring engineering dollars, to the companies in order to either further develop the core product or add certain features that the government customers really want to see as part of the product. But then the key part is we also purchase enough product to a pilot. So In-Q-Tel is the customer. We sign the purchase order. The company gets a purchase order to show to its investors that says, hey, we have a real customer here that thinks there's an applicability of their technology to a problem. But we have the right to deploy that technology as part of the pilot agreement at CIA or NSA or one of the other agencies that we work with. And then while that pilot's going on and the end user's figuring out thumbs up, thumbs down, does it address my problem? We're working with the procurement people in the background such that the end user says thumbs up. The agency contracts directly with the portfolio company for more stuff, more licenses, more gadgets, whatever the company sells. And we call that an adoption when there's now a direct contract between the agency and the portfolio company. That's success for us. That's success for the portfolio company because now they have a paying referenceable customer in the government, and that's success for the government agency because now they have innovative new technology in mission operational environments. So that's the model that we pursue. And any proceeds we generate, they just get reinvested into our model. So we reinvest any proceeds we generate back into it as a discount to the taxpayer.
So how big is your organization exactly, and how are you organized?
We're 180 employees.
It's a lot.
A lot of them are technical people that, one, help with the evaluation of the technology that we are contemplating investing in. They help with the architectures that we develop to work with our customers to sort of say, this is where drones are today. This is where drones are going to be tomorrow. Let's figure out what the gaps are that we need to go invest against. And then we test the technologies we invest in, and then we help implement and deploy the technologies with the customer. So we have a lot of resources, because solution transfer, this process of getting technology out of the company and into mission operational environment, is hard. And we've figured out over the 25 years that you have to throw people at that problem in order to make these deals successful.
I always describe the negative thing, and most people know this, is that it takes a lot of bodies to navigate and be an advocate within the building.
Absolutely.
And that's what you guys are. One of the many things you're expert at.
Thank you.
You have an international offices, an international strategy. Where did that come from? What was the genesis there?
Sure. So, we were in this business for a while, and we figured out, like everybody else, that innovation is not captive to the United States. There's some innovation occurring outside the U.S. that's very impressive. And while the U.S. government will not leverage technology from certain countries around the world that I think everyone can understand, there are other countries that they will leverage technology from. And so we went out and created a program called In-Q-Tel International. We've opened up 4 or 5 offices around the world. And it does a couple things for us. One, it allows us to work with 2 governments, the British and the Australian government. So we do help them in a similar but smaller scale the way we do the U.S. government. But even for the offices not in those countries, what we are able to do is really create situational awareness about where innovation is occurring, what technologies may be out there that our customers can choose to take advantage of if they want to, but at least they're aware of them in case the adversary takes advantage of them as well.
Okay. Last question on In-Q-Tel, then I'm going to hit on some policy stuff. How do you make decisions? Is it an investment committee, or how does that work? Is it you have to have a buy-in from some part of the government?
Right. So we work with each of the agencies, and each of the agencies have that I mentioned. Each of the agencies have a deal pool, which is the money that they allocate, and they give us a problem set each year that sort of says, these are the problems we want you to go find deals for. When we do find a deal that applies to the problem set, we have our own internal investment committee, which I lead. It's 3 people. It's myself. It's the woman that runs our tech team and the gentleman that runs our investment team. We approve all the investments there. But we also get an email of support from the agency that we work with, sort of saying, we're going to do this deal on behalf of you against this part of the problem set that you described to us, and we're going to deploy it and pilot in this with this end user group. And we get an email of support from that agency saying, yes, we agree with all that and we support this investment. We call that value statement.
That's super helpful. Bringing you, like I said, you guys have been doing this for 25 years. You since 2006. It feels like we're at a precipice of a new time. Right. Both administrations, since Trump kind of alerted to the problem of our peer challenger, our peer adversary, what do you think is going to change in the next administration? And how are you poised? As you'd give advice, you're kind of the experienced watcher of governments, the impact. Is the DoD going to change? Is acquisition going to work, be more faster, nimble? Or is cost plus done?
Yeah. All right. There's a lot to unpack in that question. Let me start also with a little history first. So back in 2006, we invested in a company called Palantir. It was a small company with a bunch of ex-PayPal people, right? And what we got over the next 5 years was a lot of calls from top-tier venture capitalists saying, hey, Steve, met Palantir, understand you're working with them. We like the team. We're intrigued by the tech, but we just don't understand the market. Can you help explain to me this market? And I would try and do that, and the Palantir leadership would try and do it. But ultimately, most of these top-tier venture firms passed on the deal, and they raised money through non-traditional sources. At the same time, although we were not investors, I think a lot of that same stuff was happening with SpaceX. So you had 2 companies that were government-first technology companies, started by very high-profile teams that all the venture capitalists knew about, and none of the venture capitalists really invested in those deals. You fast forward to 2016, all of a sudden those were 2 of the 5 highest valued private companies in the world. And they were exactly the type of deals that make the venture capital model work, right? They were deals that were going to return the fund
Power law.
for their investors, at least one time and maybe even 2 or 3 times if you were early enough in those deals. And the venture capitalists were like, oh, put your own curse word in there. We messed up. Right. And so then you start to see firms like Andreessen Horowitz create American Dynamism. You saw General Catalyst create Global Resilience. You saw Bessemer Partners Founders Fund, Lux Capital, a number of these other great firms all start to invest in defense tech, which is not a phrase I actually really love, but it seems to be the one that the market has adopted. Right. And so now you've seen the second generation of companies come and build great products for the government. Think companies like Anduril, Skydio, Shield AI, Vannevar Labs. More recently, companies like Hadrian and Saronic, and others. And so the venture capital industry has invested billions of dollars in great teams building great products for that. At the same time, the government started to wake up to this. And so in 2016, roughly, right, maybe 2015, if I think about it, DoD created DIU. AFWorks emerged. OSC came a few years later. The government started creating a number of different programs to try and access this technology better and to try and gradually shift the spend of the DoD budget from these 5 government primes that got a lot of the spend to these emerging companies. And we're at this interesting point now where the venture capital industry is billions of dollars into this. And they're looking around and sort of saying, all right, Anduril is kind of achieving.
Give us the programs.
Yeah. But we're not really seeing a lot of other companies hit that escape velocity yet. They're like, where are the program of records? Where's the big dollar contracts there? Because if not, we're going to think that this was an overinvested fad and we're going to move on to the next great thing. The DoD is sitting there going, some of the lessons that we just heard from Troy, our previous speaker, right, is realizing that, hey, the future of warfare is not very expensive, very exquisite, very heavily manned things that the primes are very good at building. The future of warfare is large numbers of cheap, unmanned things, and the primes aren't so good at that, right? And so DoD is sort of saying, we got to shift. The VCs are saying, where's the money? And I think this new administration is seeing that, and they're stepping up and sort of saying, we got to act. And so I'm fully expecting to see an acceleration from this new administration of the shift in spend from the traditional legacy primes to these emerging tech companies. And I think if that happens, I think that will create a new set of products that will be successful for these various DoD entities in their missions, whether that's in the South China Sea or in the Middle East, or it doesn't sound like we maybe have that much of a mission in Europe anymore. But so I think I think you're going to see it. But if you don't see it happen in these next 4 years, then I think this sort of current mindset of this is a great area to invest in a current mindset from the DoD, of these are great companies to source from, I think that's all going to get blown up, and we're going to have to rebuild it in some form or another.
So his eyes are a little bit of bubble and optimism, and I was talking about the haves and have-nots. Or not. What are the things that would make this not happen, that would not allow this new administration coming in to make the changes in acquisition reform, PBE, that they think, and do things quickly, cut in the old ways and invest in the innovative technologies?
Well, so the procurement process of the DoD right now is really set up in some ways a lot like the Russians, right, on these 5-year plans, right? And it's not set up to be real time. And we've never really been a fast-moving organization except when we're in crisis, right?
Yep.
After 9/11, all of a sudden the defense and intelligence communities moved really quickly. Yep. And what I think a lot of us are trying to do is trying to say, hey, that moment is coming, and we need to start acting quickly now in anticipation of it instead of waiting for that. But if this doesn't happen, it'll be because we haven't been able to break through the cultural resistance, the procurement class sort of, I don't get fired for not making a mistake. And I think that will be what slows us down. And so I think, this new administration does want to come in. It wants to blow a lot of things up. It wants to move fast and break things, right? And I think that's exactly the attitude that's needed in order to accelerate this switch. And if you hear Admiral Paparo talk about what he needs in South China Sea and for Indo-PACOM, he's saying the organization is not moving fast enough. He's saying he needs stuff to happen more quickly. And I think that message is resonating with folks back in DC.
We hear the message a lot. We just hope they can make the actual changes, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to make a quick pivot, and then I think we're probably out of time. What are the couple of areas you're most excited about? We heard manufacturing at scale, which we know a huge issue, but not quite tech, but a critical importance to how we fight. Is it the IC side of things, the information, AI? What are the three areas you guys are saying, this is high on the government's list, we need to fix this and solve this problem?
Yeah, so first off, I do think revitalizing the defense industrial base and revitalizing manufacturing so China can't choke us with their control of the supply chain is absolutely critical to the United States. We used to have...
Can you make venture money in it?
I think you can. We used to have a dual-use manufacturing world. General Mills used to make submarines. Ford used to make satellites, right? A lot of the companies that made stuff for the commercial world also made stuff for defense world. And then we moved to this sort of bifurcated world where, only a small number of companies, that eventually became the 5 that currently exist right now, make stuff for DoD. And we have all these other companies that make stuff for the commercial world. So this is coming back, and it's coming back aggressively. Whether it will be back in time for a potential conflict with Taiwan, we'll see. But that's coming back, and I think there's been good legislation passed by Congress to help accelerate this, and I think there'll be more legislation done. So the revitalization of the manufacturing and defense industrial base is actually one area that we are very focused on investing in. We're very proud of the number of jobs we've created in the United States through our investments. Drones, counter drones, electronic warfare. Troy mentioned that before. That's absolutely critical right now. And what is still missing from the U.S. is this sense of low cost. If you talk to Ukraine operators,
and scale,
they're still using DJI Phantom drones made by China, where they have to play this cat and mouse game of hacking the firmware and China patching the firmware because the mix of capability and price point is still optimal for them compared to the U.S. Drones, which are still too expensive. We got to figure out how to come down in that price point. The third area that we're, or I'll give you 2 more. I'll give you 4.
Great.
I'll give you 2 more that we're investing in. One is autonomy. We have the autonomy to operate an individual drone out there, but this concept of swarms of drones, swarms of satellites, swarms of undersea vehicles operating together, making decisions in real time at scale doesn't exist yet. And there's a number of companies chasing that, but China's chasing that, but we don't see anybody having done it yet. And finally, what I would say back to the supply chain a little bit, it's actually critical materials and minerals and understanding how we source them, how we process them, and do that in a way that we, U.S., can be confident in that supply chain. That's a critical element as well, and something we've been looking at. Okay,
last question. You're a Silicon Valley guy. You've watched that network, that ecosystem, that flywheel go. We're seeing a lot of it out of El Segundo, and Austin has really become a hubbub. What advice would you have here to make this the center of innovation? What else does this community have to do?
Well, I think you need a couple things, and this community has a lot of it already. One, you need talent, and you have a lot of technical talent here, and more's moving in. Plus you have a great university nearby that's producing young graduates every year. So you have the talent. You have the capital. There's a lot of firms represented, I think, in the audience, and more firms flying in from outside here. But the thing that still distinguishes Silicon Valley from other places is the risk profile and the risk appetite of humans. In Silicon Valley, it is badge of honor to work for a failed startup company.
Absolutely.
And when you go work for a startup company and you get laid off, everybody rushes in to encourage you, like, hey, that happened. It happened to me. Don't worry about it. Look at all the great things I've done since then. Go off and do your next one. And I don't sense that is quite still here. There's still a little bit of sort of fear of failure here, and you really have to embrace it. And that's really one of the magic things about Silicon Valley, is the way it embraces failure as a way to get to success. And so I think Austin is certainly heading in that direction, and we're eager to be here, and we're eager to make investments here. But I think it just needs a little bit more of that.
Steve, thanks for making the trip. Thanks for joining us today at Austin for America, and thanks for all your leadership in the sector.
Well, thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Luke and Kate for putting this on here. I think Austin for America is great. I came to one or I'm not even going to say his name. Came to one other conference here in Austin once in my life. Was unimpressed by them when they put Snowden up as a keynote speaker, and never came back after that. So I'm thrilled to be here supporting Austin for America. Thank you.